Somebody dragged me by force, by fire, me kicking and screaming and resisting, to pay very careful attention to the recent interview of the Secretary General of the ODM party and Nairobi Senator, Edwin Sifuna, on Citizen TV. And I have to say, I am glad they did. You see, as an analyst, I have to prioritize. I cannot pay very careful attention to everything and anything that unfolds in Kenyan politics. It is humanly impossible. I'm sorry to burst the bubble of many who are listening in, who believe that is exactly what I do. Especially because we have been very honored on this channel to retain a mantra that I've had since the very beginning of the Kumekucha brand. And that is, next month's headlines, even next year's headlines, today. We have had a knack of focusing on things that are about to happen. Very major things in Kenya. Even Baba's passing on. Yeah, for close followers of this channel. Just go back and check. What was I discussing 5 days before Baba passed on? And I gave all the credit, all the glory and the honor to the one who sent me. It's not me. Anyway, I can't blame people for having that image on their head that I follow everything kutoka mwanzo mpaka mwisho. It's not humanly possible. I am forced to choose what to focus on, to choose what is terribly important and what is less terribly important. Anyway, I am very glad that I was pushed so hard to pay careful attention to the Sifuna interview on Citizen. Why? Because there are some bombshells that emerged that even you, when you hear me out today on my show, you will be shocked. By the way, very, very quickly, before we get on with it, I need to give you a heads up. Friends, please pay very careful attention to the developments within the IEBC over the next 1 month, starting like immediately. Well, we already know that the CEO of the IEBC, Bwana Majan Hussein, is gone. Okay? Actually, he was forced out. That is the truth. I know what the official statement is saying. By mutual consent. Yani walikaa chini, wakakubaliana. But we need to focus on why now. Why was he kicked out just around now? I will conclude that discussion at the tail end of my show today. The first thing that came out for me, the first major bombshell, was exactly how a man called Oburu Odinga was illegally appointed party leader of ODM. Edwin Sifuna on the Citizen TV interview revealed that he was at the airport when people were leaving for Mumbai to collect the remains of Baba. And somebody said, he refused to tell us who, but somebody said, oh, the SG is here. Please bring your passport. You join this party to go and collect Baba in Mumbai. Now it is very obvious that this somebody was acting on behalf of somebody to get Sifuna out of the way. Okay? Because surely, when you appoint an interim party leader, don't you think that the SG, the Secretary General of the party, must be there? But then, of course, this other somebody already knew that there would be resistance. Therefore, they had to get Sifuna out of the way. And of course, we know how that story ended. By the time Sifuna got back to the country, the ODM party already had an interim party leader. Somebody who previously did not even hold a leadership position in that party, pop, was suddenly party leader. That to me was a major bombshell, because it is proof of what we have been saying on this channel. And it is the following. The person who appointed Oburu Odinga as party leader of ODM was President William Samoei Ruto. Now, I know that is strange. You're the leader of a party, and you appoint the leader of another party, a competitor, who you're desperate to get into a coalition with. You're the one who is behind appointing that person as the party leader. And of course, you do not know what the ODM constitution says, and you don't want to know because you have your own political objectives. Bombshell number 2, the ongoing campaign by ODM, mainly to linder their ground support, to guard their ground support, mainly in Luo Nyanza, is not being financed by the ODM party. That is a major bombshell according to me. Because, in fact, we know who is financing it. Sifuna was asked, alidodge your question. He didn't answer. Okay? It is rather obvious that the person who appointed the ODM party leader is the same person financing all these activities of the ODM party. Now, if you understand politics, that is beyond bizarre. And not only that, it also tells you that the ODM party has been completely captured. No wonder the way some people in ODM party are talking these days, leaders whom we have always trusted and believed in, they're talking these days exactly the way you dear people talk, with a lot of arrogance, threats, intimidation, which if Baba came back today, I think you'd slap those people. That is not ODM. But that is what we are seeing right before our eyes. You know, the Mzungu once said, he who pays the piper, you know, you're removing the cash. You have to dictate everything. Now, in case you have still not seen it, this tells us exactly how the ODM party is being run and explains a lot of very strange things that are happening within the Chungwa party. Now, bombshell number 3 was the biggest for me by far, because it also refers to another very recent video I've done on this channel. In fact, the immediate former video I did concerning another Kenyan, the 4th president of Kenya, called Uhuru Kenyatta. Maybe I should start the story there so that we get the full impact of this bombshell that came out of Edwin Sifuna during this interview on Citizen TV. Now, one of the things that Uhuru has pushed very, very aggressively recently is the revival of the Azimio coalition. Now, wait for this one. This move by Uhuru Kenyatta is a very direct attack, confrontation, a very aggressive move against President William Samoei Ruto. How so? I'm sure most of you have guessed. But don't worry, those who have not, I will spell it out. Now, the law is very clear. Before you join another coalition, what must you do? You must exit the previous coalition you belong to. I'm sure we're all aware of that. And you must convince the registrar of parties. You must convince legal experts that actually you're formally exited that coalition so as to be allowed to join a brand new coalition. I'm sure you're all following up to there. Now, Sifuna emphasized and reminded us that according to the ODM constitution, for you to exit a coalition, it is a process. Actually, you need at least 2/3 support from the top decision-making organ of the party. And of course, the Secretary General plays a very, very, very key role in this process. Now, it is very clear that the ODM party is about to enter into a kind of coalition arrangement with Ruto in preparation for Ruto's bid for re-election in the upcoming 2027 general elections. Okay? So I'm sure you see the problem there. ODM are still in Azimio. So they must exit Azimio before they join Ruto and UDA in these shenanigans for 2027. Now, all indications show that Ruto handlers were not aware of this, or rather they had forgotten that ODM is a very key member of Azimio. Actually, everybody had forgotten about Azimio. It's like Azimio was buried with the Baba. No way! Azimio was much bigger than Baba. Azimio had other parties, many other political outfits within it. And therefore, Uhuru Kenyatta has recently championed a revival of Azimio. It even has a brand new Azimio party leader. His name is Stephen Kalonzo Musyoka. Bila kizungu mingi, hapo iko shida. Tena shida kubwa sana. There is a major problem there, which will not be easily sorted out. That one I can assure you. Money or no money, bribes or no bribes, that one will not be easily sorted out. And that is not all. It also clearly shows us that those who are championing coalitions within ODM are behaving in an illegal manner as per the party's constitution. Yeah? Seeking coalitions, seeking to talk to other parties in the run-up to the 2027 general elections is illegal until they have exited the coalition they are already in, which of course is chaired by former President Uhuru Kenyatta. Fire see fire, norma see norma. Now I don't know what to think, but those are the three bombshells that had me sitting down to absorb it all. But I will tell you something else that came out of this Sifuna interview on Citizen. I discovered that Sifuna already has a very clear plan in his head, and he was very guarded. He dodged many questions, which in my opinion would have compromised what he's planning, would have enabled his many political enemies to guess what he wants to do next. Okay? That should be very clear. I mean, this guy was just too cautious. Just to give you a quick example, to prove just how cautious he was. He told us that when Raila passed on, he got an SMS from somebody whom he did not name, telling him, Amolo has left us. Now, what is the big deal? Telling us the identity of the person. Who sent him that SMS? What is the big deal? Let me explain. It would reveal somebody who Sifuna is very close to. And maybe this somebody, it is not very obvious in public that this person is close to Sifuna. And of course, Sifuna does not want to let the cat out of the bag about his close political allies, not in the public domain. And maybe this person is very public, but their link, their connection, is not obvious to everybody. Sifuna is guarding that. That is how cautious the man is. What? And so in conclusion, those who are ignoring the moves Uhuru is making, he's a retired president, there's nothing there. I think now you need to go back to the drawing boards and relook what is unfolding in our local political scene. Otherwise, chances are very high that you'll be caught very flat-footed in the very near future. Now on to Marjan Hussein, the immediate former chief executive officer of the IEBC. If I was Bwana Hussein, I would carefully watch my back. Because sometimes when people are close to power, they forget that they're dispensable. They forget that they have so much information that somebody may not want that information to come out in the future. Somebody may not trust them to keep their mouths shut in the distant future. And therefore, they may opt to get them out of the way. You know, even people like Wafula Chebukati were so confident that, oh, there's no problem. I've assisted, I'm in the good books. Oh, I'm going to be very powerful in Kenya. Huh? What happened to him? I'm sure you get what I'm saying. So let us conclude that question I asked earlier on my show today. Why now? Because there have been many appeals, there have been many complaints against this Majan Hussein for a very long time. Over the last 3 years or so, people have been complaining. In fact, since 2017, people have been complaining about Majan Hussein. But then why now, in February 2026, was he so hurriedly removed? In my opinion, the answer to that question is in my latest highly sensitive special report that releases some crazy information about how the plans to rig the 2027 presidential elections have been completed. And those who have taken in this report will already know the answer to that question I've asked, because it is all there in the crazy information that I have released, highly sensitive information. Now you can see details on the screens right now. You need to move with speed. In closing this offer, and I'm very serious, this is the very last offer on this particular special report, you can now get it for only Kenya shillings 2,999. I suggest that you move with speed to get this information, because from here going forward, things are going to start moving very fast. And it is very easy to find yourself very confused, not understanding what is happening. And so because you have taken time to come to this channel and to listen to what we have to say, it would be a great disservice to you, according to me, if next week, very soon, you end up very confused, not understanding what is unfolding. And I mean crazy, crazy major developments, major breaking news, which is coming. Okay? The details are on your screens right now. Please move with speed if you're in a position to. Until next time, this is Chris Karaoke Kumekucha.